In a move that is surprising to no one, a handful of Republican senators are stabbing us all in the back and selling us out, voting in favor of this ridiculous bipartisan gun safety bill. Rest assured, my friends, this is an infringement on our rights to keep and bear arms, which I can easily break down for you. And these senators are outright lying. I'd like to give a special shout out to the senator from West Virginia. Now, we are currently building our new headquarters in West Virginia. My primary and official residence is West Virginia, but I do work in the tri-state, so I want to be clear on that. Meaning, we have operations in Maryland. We don't really do much in Virginia, but we are setting up and building out in West Virginia. And this is why I'm so pissed off. Shelley Capito, she is the Republican RINO senator from West Virginia, who says we're not going to have red flag laws, and then signs on to a bill that has mental illness crisis intervention for people to red flag someone and have their guns taken away. Simply put, Cornyn and all of these other Republicans are selling you out. You know why? I'll tell you why. Shelley in West Virginia is not up for re-election until 2026. They're hoping you forget about it. These people are scumbags. But you know what? It's so frustrating. It seems like the only tactics that work are the leftist ones, where they stage 24/7 protests in front of someone's home until they force them to actually uphold an individual's rights. I love it. Last night, I had Larry Sharp on. He's a libertarian candidate for New York governor. Like him much more than any other candidate who's running. But I keep hearing this from so many people. What Larry said to us was, listen, the majority of people in New York State, in all of the cities, want gun control. And you need them to vote for you, so how do you do it? Fair point. And he said, if they keep voting for people who enact gun control, you're going to lose your access to guns, regardless of what the Constitution says. Yeah. When ignorant people try to steal power, sure, that's what happens. But you know what? I had someone respond to me when I said, I'm going to put a sticky note on my monitor. So every night we do Timcast IRL, I will remind everyone in West Virginia to do whatever you can to vote for someone else in 2026. Okay, let's be more reasonable. Maybe that won't make sense. And maybe what makes more sense is to put a big sign in the room that says, never forget. Come 2026, I will do whatever I can to make sure that Shelley loses in West Virginia. And it's quite simple. One, this bill is an affront to our rights as American citizens to keep and bear arms, and I'll break it down exactly why. It's not a gun safety bill. It's an infringement upon legal adults' right to keep and bear arms. They're just trying to smack you in the face and boil the frogs in the pot. But also, when I decided that we needed to expand the Timcast operation, and I looked around for good states where I thought that my rights would be protected. Having dealt with someone trying to break into my home in New Jersey, I thought I need to be in a place where I'm going to have my gun rights. And West Virginia, second most Trump supporting state in the nation, close enough to the D.C. area, looks pretty good. But you've got people like this. Manchin's bad enough. Now the Republican from West Virginia is selling me out. I didn't grow up in West Virginia. I haven't lived there very long. So I do try to be a bit more respectful of those who have lived their whole lives in this state and want accurate and proper representation. But I will say that the Second Amendment is federal. And if you are selling out our rights to keep and bear arms in West Virginia, you are selling out our rights to keep and bear arms for the entirety of the country when you as a federal level politician are enacting this trash. I will not forget it. And I hope the people of West Virginia don't either, because I speak to the people of West Virginia. I hang out. I go to events. And what I find is they don't want this. How would it make sense that someone who lives in the mountains where there's a bear problem would be like, yeah, let's make it harder to have weapons. This ain't the city. We don't deal with the crime of New York. You got a problem with New York's crime? Go take it up with New York City. You don't bring your trash to the middle of nowhere where we like to live peacefully and be left alone. Let me read this for you. Senate advances bipartisan gun safety bill. The Senate voted 64 to 34. Amazing. Tuesday evening to advance an 80-page gun safety bill to strengthen background check requirements for gun buyers under 21, an infringement upon our rights to keep and bear arms. Thank you. Provide funding to states to administer red flag laws and provide billions of dollars in new federal funding for mental health services. 14 Republicans voted to proceed to the bill, including Mitch McConnell. Y'all in Kentucky who keep voting for that guy, I tell you, man, who announced his support for the legislation moments before the vote. Our colleagues have put together a common sense package of popular steps that will help make these horrifying incidents less likely while fully upholding the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. Yeah? That's called Mitch McConnell is spitting in your face and then laughing behind the scenes. What does the Second Amendment say? It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let me break it down for you. The left likes to say, but it says a well-regulated militia. A descriptive statement as to why the right of the people exists has no bearing on what the Constitution is prescribing. It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Full stop right there. The Constitution in that moment, regardless of anything else, recognizes the right of the people to keep and bear arms exists, period, end of story. Now, you want to talk about what the government should or shouldn't do? Fine. But to quote my good friend Michael Malice, my rights are not up for a vote. And the Constitution does not grant that right, but it recognizes the existence of it. You want to talk about well-regulated militias or anything else? Don't care. It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Anything else doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned. Now, the shall not be infringed is a good part. The point is, the founders knew that the people, that individuals, had the right to bear arms. And they said the government shouldn't screw with it. Well, they are. Infringement is defined as to place a limit or to undermine something. Oh, so right now when they say if you're between 18 and 21, you have expanded background checks and wait times, is that not an infringement? It is, literally. Let's see what we got here. We got Shelley Moore Capito, the RINO Republican from West Virginia. I will not forget this, and I will be conferring with my lawyer about the best way to engage in West Virginia politics to make sure that you lose and that you regret voting for this. Because I'm going to make sure the people know. I don't believe in those leftist tactics of showing up to people's homes, but we'll see what my lawyer says about what we can do in terms of organizing peaceful protests, putting up billboards, buying TV commercials, radio, whatever it takes. Here's what she says. She says, this bill is not about issues such as red flag laws, which will never be enacted in our state. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is you're signing on to federal level legislation that will enact red flag laws, but not at the state level. You're a scumbag. Okay. Here's the bill. Let me just show you what they have here. And it's hard to understand for the layman when you're reading an 80-page bill. Section 12003, use of burn grants for implementation of state crisis intervention programs. Red flag laws, it's a slang term for crisis intervention. So when she signs on to this, they're going to red flag you. You know what that means? Are you a veteran? You better not seek out help for any PTSD or any kind of mental issue you may be thinking about. You better never admit to suffering from depression, because they will come and they will strip you of your rights, and you know they want to. Why? Well, Forrest Cooper, he said we have to ask ourselves why it is the people who are really good at violence aren't engaging in it. It's because they know how bad it really is. The people who have been trained in warfare, veterans, often who suffer mental illness, like PTSD, from experiencing this stuff, they may want to get help. The government wants to strip them of their right to keep and bear arms, make them weak, to defend their own homes, to defend their homes from enemies both foreign and domestic. And that doesn't mean government. It means it could mean a criminal. It could mean a cartel. It could mean a corrupt police, whatever. Someone trying to break the law and cause you physical harm or threaten your life. They want to take away your right to defend yourself. And so if you served in the armed forces, you better not ever try and seek out mental health services, they'll come for you. This is what they're saying. They had this ridiculous provision where they're like, you'll have a right to challenge it in court. Oh, okay. What they're saying is they want to pass a law where anyone, can basically accuse you of being a threat, and then you are forced to defend yourself as to why you should be allowed to keep and bear arms. Sounds like a violation of the Second Amendment. The state should not have the right to come to me when I've not committed a crime and say, we've decided your brain don't work, therefore we get your guns. No, I shouldn't have to pay a dime to defend myself, take out a single minute of my day to go to court to explain why I deserve to keep my property. Scumbags. Here it is from bearingarms.com. Senate deal finally a bill. Is it as bad as we thought? Tom Knighton, please do not ask questions in your headlines, because as Better's laws of headline states, any headline that asks a question can be answered by the word no. The reality is, it is as bad as we thought. Here's what he says. Well, a small group in the Senate already hammered out the broad strokes of a gun control bill. The details were jamming things up a bit. For some, it was a hopeful sign the deal wouldn't really be struck, and there's be no bill after all. Well, so much for that hope. The text of the bill was released Monday night, and shortly afterwards, an initial vote was held, and the bill got 64 votes in support. A bipartisan group of senators overcame some last-minute hurdles and released legislative text Tuesday on a narrow set of provisions to combat gun violence, including state funding to implement red flag laws and enhance background checks. Today, we finalized bipartisan common sense No, I'm stopping there. The only action that I want to see from any politician is getting Democrats on board with repealing gun infringement laws. Why is it? But every single time, where are the Republicans to come out and be like, we finally got 14 Democrats on board with repealing these laws which infringe upon the rights of American citizens? No, it never happens. The Democrats want to burn everything down and beat you over the head. And the Republicans are like, yes, but slowly. Our legislation will save lives and will not infringe on any law-abiding American Second Amendment rights. These people are absolute evil. They're going to say, except that it does. Among the many measures is an expanded background check process for anyone under the age of 21. It requires the NICS system, which is the National Instant Check System, to reach out to juvenile records divisions of whatever state the buyer is from to look for criminal records there. It provides an additional 10 days of waiting if there is something off during that search. This is the game they play. They are taking what they can because they're hoping that by moving the needle a little bit, you won't freak out. 10 days of waiting. All right. 18-year-old woman. She's being beaten by her significant other, boyfriend, and she flees. And he leaves a voicemail saying, I will find you and I will end you. She knows he means it. So she goes to a local gun shop and says, I don't know what to do. The police said they can't do anything. I need a gun. The police say to call them if he shows up. But what if when seconds count, the police are minutes away and they say, young ma'am, it is your right to keep and bear arms. Fill out this background check form, and maybe in 2 weeks you'll have a gun. 2 weeks? He's coming now. And they say, too effing bad. Because Shelly Capito sold you out. She wants you to die at the hand of your violent abuser significant other. Maybe she's about to turn 21 in 10 days, doesn't matter. A 10-day waiting period is an infringement upon your rights. They're going to say this means certain people will be subjected to longer delays. A right delayed is a right denied. An infringement on those individual Second Amendment rights. Not only that, but I don't see how a check can be instant if they're having to contact individual states and wait for information. You'd think members of the Senate would understand that. Now, that's an example I give that ultimately is irrelevant. An 18-year-old has a right to keep and bear arms. They're legal adults. Yet in Virginia, you can't buy a handgun. Why? They don't let you do it. That's an infringement upon your rights. You're a legal adult. Enter into contracts. Serve this country. They keep doing this. This is the game they'll play. We're raising it to 21. It makes sense, they say, because they know that most young people aren't going to vote and they're going to ignore this. Absolute scumbaggery. It's evil. These people they're the Elysium elites. They are the capital city in the Hunger Games. Heavens! Poor people defending themselves. We can't have that. They're going to say, of course, it's far from everything included. At least some of the healthcare measures look more like things some lawmakers wanted but couldn't get passed in other bills. Things like telemedicine for Medicaid recipients. The bill also redefines gun dealers, removing language that defines one as someone who sells firearms with the principal objective of livelihood and profit, and replaces it with to predominantly earn a profit. How they determine someone's motivation is beyond me. Another thing the bill includes is an anti-straw purchase provision, because it's not like that's been the law for decades or anything. Okay. So can I open a nonprofit 501c3 to sell guns and say, we care not for earning profit. We just want people to be armed. These senators are selling you out and spitting on you in the process. They're pissing on you and telling you it's raining. I'm disgusted by this. But let me send a strong message to our good leftist friends. Psychology Today, personality traits, mental illness, and ideology. Higher rates of mental illness have been found in the far left. Okay, here we go. Mental illness in the far left, May 2020. Emil O.W. Kierkegaard. Here's one such graph. You can see that the further you go left, and predominantly among females, you get higher rates of mental illness. Now, some have tried to say that this is just because there's a stigma on the right for getting mental health treatment. I don't believe that's true. I believe it's a cop-out, and the data doesn't suggest that anyway. If you want to speculate as to why something might happen, get me some data. For the time being, all we know is the further left you are, the more likely you are to have mental illness. And look at that margin. I mean, that's huge. Okay. Let me tell you something. The far left, you're going to get red flagged like crazy. The police are going to be kicking in the doors of inner city families and poor people because rival gangs or angry exes or racists are going to say, you've got a gun. And they're going to say, okay, we're serving a red flag warrant. And you're like, I don't have a gun. Too bad. We're searching the house. We heard you did. My opinion on this is that the stigma idea doesn't make sense. I just think the more likely you are to have mental illness, the more likely you are to drift far left. The example is that people who are extremely conservative, who are male, have slightly higher rates of mental illness than those who are just conservative. That would imply that the far right has a lower stigma compared to conservatives. That makes no sense. And also when you see liberals and extremely liberals, I really doubt among liberals, if the stigma doesn't exist, that liberals are more likely to stigmatize mental health than extremely liberals. And funny enough, liberal women have higher rates of mental illness than far left women. It's the men that are really driving up those rates. Among those that are slightly liberal, the females have very high rates of mental illness. Here's Gallup, 2007. Republicans report much better mental health than others. Relationship persists even when controlling for other variables. Shout out to PolitiFact for lying. Beware of misinformation about red flag laws, including critics who say they lack due process, which is not accurate. They do lack due process. The problem is there is no due process when the government can call you in to defend your right to keep property with you having committed no crime. So the government now can seize your private property and force you to defend yourself. Think about what that means. The state comes to you and says, we're going to take away your rights. And you say, I think you can't do that. And they go, can you afford a lawyer? Can you afford to miss work to defend yourself? No? Too bad. Your guns are gone. You don't get to defend yourself. And we see what happens in many of these other countries. In Canada, where you get psychopaths like Justin Trudeau going, in Canada, you don't have a right to defend yourself with a firearm. That's not something we have here. Trudeau is one of the worst human beings on the planet. These people are evil. They're authoritarians. And I assure you, it always goes the same way. They're arrogant, ignorant, narcissistic. They think they're better than you. And because of that, they're willing to take. And because of that, they find themselves in positions of power. And then when they're there, they wield the power of the state against innocent people. And what do you get? Like we've seen throughout history, despots kill. And that's the direction we're heading. You see, in the United States, the right to keep and bear arms is a check on the government as much as the left doesn't want to accept it because, well, I shouldn't say the left, I should say liberals. They say, what are you going to do? You're going to form a militia and fight the government? No. We're just going to remind the government that if they want to serve a warrant, they have to knock politely. Because you saw what happened when the police broke down the door of Breonna Taylor's apartment and her boyfriend was armed and a cop got shot in the leg. It sucks. You know, we actually had this officer on the show. I'm glad he's okay. He's serving a warrant. Cops got to do I get that. But I want to make sure every police officer knows you will not be kicking my door in. You will be knocking and announcing yourself. Now, in that instance, I said they did. Either way, they then busted the door down. The government needs to understand that the people have a right to keep and bear arms and to defend themselves. And that's why Breonna Taylor's boyfriend had the charges dropped. Or I should say the charges against him were dropped. Because you want to break my door down in the middle of the night? You better expect that the American people can defend themselves. You will not infringe our rights. They're doing it. The First Amendment has been infringed, is being usurped. The Second Amendment is being crushed every single day, as we can see here. The Third Amendment, surprisingly, even too, with the government's moratorium on evictions. People argued that. The Fourth Amendment's in the gutter. I mean, come on. Stop and frisk, red flag laws, metadata, an NSA spying. The Fifth Amendment, oh, you know it. Come on. Innocent until proven guilty. We've got so many problems in that front. Yeah, every day it just gets worse. People need to stand up and push back and tell these Republicans, these trash Republicans, no. But you know what the issue is? They know they're not up for re-election until 2026. Shelley Capito's like, my term ends in 2027. So she can spit on you, she can kick you in the face, and she can laugh the whole time knowing, what are you going to do about it? Maybe we need some protests. Maybe instead of putting up billboards in Times Square, I'll just put up, you know what? Maybe we need a different strategy. Maybe we'll just learn from the left. Maybe we will take out ad campaigns, and they won't be political. They will be personal to remind everybody that these people are evil and are selling you out and are laughing at you while they do it. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.